San Fernando Valley, Los Angeles. March 1998. A man enters a roughneck bar called The Place. He meets a girl, has a drink, then spots a couple of mean-looking bikers. And so begins a major undercover investigation. Operation Ivan. The man at the bar is really a federal agent, Billy Queen, an officer with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF. The bikers are members of a notorious motorcycle club, the Mongols. By the late 1990s, the Mongols are a regular presence on the highways of Southern California. They have a reputation for drugs, guns, and violence, and their lawlessness is getting out of hand, spilling over into the general community. Now federal authorities are moving against them. They want to insert an undercover agent into the heart of the Mongols to gather evidence against the club that will lead to a prosecution. But getting inside the Mongols is not easy.
We knew from the beginning that their violence and the tight-knit group that they were, that it'd be really very difficult to penetrate this group.
But the feds have a way in. The girl at the bar is an ATF informant known as Sue. She is a tweaker, a drug addict, who knows the Mongols well because she buys dope from them. The ATF persuades her to introduce Queen to two of her contacts, Rocky and Rancid.
I wanted to shake hands. They wanted nothing to do with that. Just kind of tipped the bottle, and they looked at me and like, so what? And I didn't get much more than just a howdy from those guys.
Queen tries to strike up a conversation, but the informant Sue keeps on talking.
She was telling these two Mongols what friends we were, and I knew that could get me in trouble. We weren't friends. I mean, you need to be able to cover everything that you say, and here she is just spouting off all kinds of stuff about who knows what.
Queen realizes Sue is high on methamphetamine. She's embellishing the cover story, threatening the operation before it even starts.
It was just a bad scene. I had to get her away from there as soon as I could.
Queen hustles Sue out of the bar, not knowing what Rocky and Rancid have made of him. But at least he has got his first close-up glimpse of the Mongols. The Mongols Motorcycle Club was formed in the back streets of East L.A. in the early 1970s. The club's name is a tribute to the Mongol army of the legendary Genghis Khan. But in the early 70s, the Mongols were attracting Saturday night hellraisers, not hardened outlaws.
The Mongols were really low on the radar as far as law enforcement as an organization. It was known for street crimes, drunk disorders, fights, things of that nature.
But the patches the Mongols wore on their jackets were causing offense. All outlaw bikers wear club colors, a vest with a three-piece patch, made up of an emblem in the center, sandwiched by the name of the club on top, and the territory it controls below. By the mid-70s, the Mongols still have less than 100 members, but they start wearing a California patch. The Hells Angels, the world's biggest outlaw motorcycle club, objects. With close to 300 members in California alone, it believes it controls the state. The Angels see the Mongols' California patch as a snub, serious enough to merit murder. Labor Day, 1977. Interstate 15, Southern California. Suddenly, a barrage of gunfire. When the smoke clears, two San Diego Mongols, Redbeard Morris and Jingles Smith, lie dead, shot down by a Hells Angels hit squad. It's a devastating attack, but there's more to come. 4 days later, Jingles and Redbeard are to be buried. Family, friends, and bikers are paying their last respects at a funeral home near San Diego.
During the services, a white 1962 Rambler pulls into the rear parking lot and parks next to the hearses and family cars lined up. Shortly thereafter, a dynamite bomb placed in the rear of the Rambler explodes. This was for everyone to see and know that the Hells Angels had gone to war with the Mongols Motorcycle Gang.
Scott Jr. Erickson, a 20-year-old hothead from San Diego, joins the Mongols.
You know, my friends that I grew up with told me, what are you doing? What are you doing getting in this club? You guys ain't never going to make it. You know, look who you're fighting. You guys ain't never going to survive.
From the outset, the Mongols are on the defensive, worried about the possibility of further Hells Angels attacks.
We checked our cars for wires. I used to check my car every morning when I got to go to work. Start the car with the door open and 1 foot out. Well, we left the door open in case of an explosion. You know, hopefully if the cars explode, it would throw you from the car. That's the way we lived. That's the way everybody lived.
It's an unequal contest. Low on manpower, the Mongols soldier on. But strong bonds of brotherhood are forged in the crucible of war.
Brotherhood is the most important thing. It's the feeling of being wanted and having people you can trust. I mean, isn't that what it's about? Isn't that why you might marry your spouse? It's to be with somebody and to trust somebody. And we're all looking for that. And with the Mongols, that's what I found. And that's what we had.
The war goes on for 15 years. More than 24 bikers on both sides are slain. But the Mongols' esprit de corps comes to define the spirit of the club.
They do truly love each other, and they do truly have loyalty for the gang. That loyalty and love rivals any organization I've ever been involved with, military or police.
The Mongols Motorcycle Club that Billy Queen finds in 1998 is a closed organization. He can't ask to join. He needs to be invited. And for that to happen, he'll have to find a way through the wall of suspicion that surrounds the club. The Mongol Sergeant-at-Arms has a job of protecting the Brotherhood and screening any new members. His name? Donald Jarvis, better known in the biker world as Red Dog.
The first time I met Red Dog, I had been invited to attend a party, and I walked past these Mongols to walk in, and a big Mongol blocked my way. And he kind of ushered me back to this little group of Mongols where Red Dog was standing. And I kind of walked up to him. He looked at me, he said, "You're Billy?" I said, yeah, I'm Billy. And a chill went through me. I didn't know what they knew.
As Red Dog eyes him up, Queen worries that the informant Sue may have ratted him out.
About 2 or 3 weeks prior to this, one of the brothers told me there's this tweaker chick in the valley named Sue. And I heard she's supposed to introduce a cop to the club.
I said, "Look, is she going to be a problem?" And Red Dog looked at me and he said, "If you turn out to be a problem, I'm going to cut your throat."
And he got all scared and the brothers were all up on him, you know, and he was panicking. I tell him, "Go ahead and go inside." But that's when I met Billy. From that day on, I thought he was a cop.
The game of cat and mouse begins. For Billy Queen to win over Red Dog and infiltrate the club, he'll need to dig deep inside himself. Before he can convince the Mongols he's the real deal, he must first convince himself he's got what it takes to become an outlaw biker. 1998. Undercover ATF agent Billy Queen is trying to infiltrate the Mongols, a violent and secretive Southern California motorcycle club. There now begins a long period of hanging around, getting noticed, helping out, and hoping the club will eventually invite him to join. The idea of the outlaw biker goes back to the end of World War II. Returning veterans, suffocated by civilian life, bought themselves motorcycles and headed off in search of a freer life on the open road. They set up small clubs with simple rules of admission. You must be over 21, male, and be riding an American bike. The mainstream biking associations were appalled by these rebel clubs and branded them outlaws. Some of the new breed managed to live like rebels while staying within the law. But others became real outlaws. For the Mongols, the route into crime was through war. To fight a 15-year battle for survival against the Hells Angels, a powerful, well-organized enemy, the Mongols need money, and money is in short supply. So in the late 1970s, the Mongols get serious about selling drugs. They cook up a low-grade methamphetamine called crank and start selling it as a money-making racket.
They made what they called peanut butter crank back then. It was junk. It was 40% methamphetamine. It was grimy, gritty. It looked like chunky peanut butter. But it was their lifeblood. They cooked it themselves. They distributed it themselves. They used it to finance the war. They used it for money to live on. They used it as part of their culture.
The Mongols' drug money pays for a stockpile of guns of varying quality. After 5 years of quietly building up their arsenal, the Mongols are ready to strike back against the Hells Angels.
We actually used to go out looking for these dudes. We went out hunting for these dudes. And in 1982, we found one.
One night in January 1982, 5 Mongols, among them Junior Erickson, go into a biker bar called the Horseshoe Tavern. It's a known Angels haunt, the watering hole of San Diego godfather Fat Ray Piltz. The Mongols get lucky. Piltz is there, alone.
They get into a fight with Ray. They're knocking each other around. One of them picks up a bar stool and hits Ray over the back, knocking him down to his knees. As he comes up, Junior Erickson pulls a .38 out of his waist and shoots him and kills him.
Somebody was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and a Hells Angel got killed. You know, the thing is, it's war, man. You know, you don't see no ball, all you see is the enemy.
Junior Erickson goes to jail for killing Piltz, but he serves only 4 years. Instead of a murder conviction, Erickson cops a plea for the lesser crime of voluntary manslaughter. The prosecutors have little choice but to cut a deal. Witnesses are too scared to testify for fear of Mongol retaliation. When Erickson is released in 1987, he is a club hero. The first Mongol to kill a Hells Angel. He's elected national president.
No matter what anybody says, you know, even when you're a kid, you're scared of an ass whipping. You kick somebody's ass, you earn your respect. And I kicked a lot of ass.
For the next decade, the Mongols continue to expand their rackets, secure in the belief that without witnesses, the police are virtually powerless. Federal authorities eventually decide the only way to bust biker gangs like the Mongols is to go undercover. That means getting an agent like Billy Queen inside the organization.
This type of operation needs to be done. People won't testify against them. And police officers can't get into these groups out here. You've got to have somebody inside to hurt them.
But the Mongols are notoriously suspicious and wise to the possibility of being infiltrated by law enforcement. In April 1998, they invite Queen to attend one of the big annual biker events, the River Run in Laughlin, Nevada. For one weekend a year, thousands of bikers converge on this small casino town in the Nevada desert. It's an opportunity for Queen to gain acceptance. He pals up with Rocky, one of the Mongols from the San Fernando Valley.
Me and Rocky's old lady occupied a room. That's where my first dope challenge happened. Rocky lines out 2 lines of methamphetamine. He bends over, he snorts up one of those lines. I'm thinking, well, I hope that other line's for his old lady. But then he turned around, puts this knife up in front of my face and says, "Is that line too much for you?"
Billy Queen has a problem. As a federal agent, he is prohibited from taking drugs, even when undercover. It'll compromise his credibility later in court. But he knows that this is an offer he can't refuse.
I knew I was in trouble. I had to come up with something. I just lucked out. When Rocky and his old lady was on one side of the room, I was able to put myself in between them and fake snorting that line of dope.
Using his body as a shield, Queen leans forward and pretends to snort, while sweeping the line of meth into his hand.
And Rocky kind of looked around beside of me, and he sees the line gone, and I'm doing this. Wow, that's some good stuff, buddy. That's some good stuff. He was sure that I did it, and he was patting me on the back. All right, let's go.
The deception works. By the end of the Laughlin River Run, the Mongols from the San Fernando Valley chapter believe Billy Queen is a genuine biker and are keen for him to join them. They have only 5 members, and according to the club's constitution, each chapter is meant to have at least 6. But before Queen can become a new member, he'll have to fill out a detailed application form.
They wanted to know your full name, your date of birth, your social security number. They wanted to know where you went to school, elementary school, junior high, high school, if you went to college. They want to know who your friends are, telephone numbers for them, if you've been in prison, you've been arrested. It just went on and on. It was 3 pages long. If you slip up in one place, it's bad news. They find out who you are, you end up dead.
Behind the scenes, ATF agents create a fake identity for Billy Queen. Using his undercover name, Billy St. John, they give him new credit cards, a driving license, and social security number, all as if Billy St. John really exists. The San Fernando Valley chapter is convinced. But all applications have to be ratified by the club's sergeant-at-arms, Red Dog. And he's still hostile to the idea.
They said, why don't I want to let him in? And I told him I think he's a cop. And they go, do you have any proof? And I said, no, I'm not going to get a computer printout saying he's a cop. It ain't going to happen that way.
He didn't trust me. I had no relatives that were in the clubs. I didn't grow up gang banging with them. I just kind of drifted into town. Even though I provided him with everything that he wanted, he was suspicious.
But Red Dog is not as influential as he once was. He'd risen in the club by being a close ally of Junior Erickson. But by 1998, Erickson is no longer the president, and Red Dog has lost some of his power.
I said no, and that right there should have been enough, but it wasn't, you know. So I got overridden on that decision.
5 months into Operation Ivan, the ATF achieves its first goal. Billy Queen is invited to join the Mongols as a prospective member. But becoming a prospect will bring with it a new set of pressures and perils. Summer 1998. Federal agent Billy Queen meets the first objective of his undercover mission. He infiltrates the San Fernando Valley chapter of the Mongols Motorcycle Club. He is now a rookie member, a prospect. He can wear the club's colors, but not yet the coveted patch with the club's name. That's reserved for full members.
When I put on that prospect patch, I became property of the club. I became their slave. I had to do anything any patched Mongol wanted me to do. Everything from running drugs to wiping somebody's butt if they wanted me to.
As a prospect, Queen acts as General Gopher at the Place, the bar that serves as chapter headquarters. And on the regular occasions when fights break out, he becomes a bouncer.
The times that I got into fights with people out there, had I not been there on occasions, they would have killed people in front of me.
For 3 months, Queen walks a tightrope on the edge of crime, trying to abide by the rules of undercover work without breaking the law.
I would get calls from Rocky. He would say, "Bring your car, Billy, and bring your gun, leave your colors home." And I wouldn't know what we were gonna do. I'd just be waiting for the gunshots to go off.
Each week, Billy Queen reports back to his legal team, putting together a rap sheet of the offenses he's witnessed. At this stage, it's mostly small-scale stuff, because he's still on the fringes of the Mongols' criminal world. But day by day, the list grows. Drug deals, illegal firearms, routine violence. While Billy is being embraced by his local chapter, one Mongol remains unconvinced. The National Sergeant-at-Arms, Red Dog.
Hey guys.
One evening at a makeshift shooting range, Red Dog decides to force a showdown with prospect Billy.
How long was your academy?
I jammed him right away. "How long were you at the academy, Billy?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" "Well, you know what the I mean. How long were you at the academy?"
How long were you at the academy?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Who'd you tell you were coming up here, Billy? Who knows that you're with the Mongols today? Red Dog, I didn't tell anybody I was coming up here. Then he says, "So if I put a bullet in the back of your head, you saying nobody's gonna know where to start looking for you?" And I said, "Yeah, that's right, Red Dog." And he looked at me and he said, "Go out there in the field and start setting up some targets, Billy." So I turned my back to all those Mongols, started walking out in the field, thinking to myself, "Boy, if they've made you, they're gonna kill you." So I set up some cans, started to walk back. Right before I got there, Red Dog raises his gun up, and bam! And I could feel it, the blast go by my face. And then they all started shooting, boom, 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 boom.
Red Dog senses Queen's fear.
He was scared of me. I knew he was scared of me. But, you know, if I wouldn't shoot somebody in front of 5 people unless I really had to, you know?
Billy Queen is finding out what it takes to be a Mongol. The daily mayhem, drugs and guns. Is he really ready to journey further into this world?
I was thinking, I am not going to go through this anymore. It wasn't worth it. It was miserable.
To make matters worse, the mission is damaging Queen's personal life. Although he is divorced, he has 2 sons. But since going undercover, he's been drifting away from them.
I had become completely isolated from my real life. I couldn't associate with my family. I couldn't associate with my friends. I was out there on my own with the Mongols. That was my life.
Queen's superiors offer him a chance to pull out and end the operation. He refuses. One evening in October 1998, he's prospecting at the place when he's approached by a Mongol known as Evil.
Now, Evil was a pretty decent dude, but he comes up to me and he says, "Billy, take your colors off. I want to see them." So I took my colors off and I held them up.
To the Mongols, colors are highly symbolic, an outlaw biker's main form of identity. To be guarded at all costs.
And then he started hollering at me, "You don't ever let anybody take your colors." And he threw them back at me. And he turned around and walked out. And I thought, what in the hell was that all about? And then Rocky walks up to me, he says, "They want to see you out back." One thing you don't want to hear is they want to talk to you out back. You know, because there were a lot of people that got their butts kicked out back.
As he's escorted out of the place, Queen braces himself for a beating. In the alleyway behind the bar, he is again reprimanded.
Domingo gets in my face. "You don't ever let anybody snatch your colors. You die for those colors. You want to lose that center patch of yours?"
Queen fears the Mongols are about to take away his prospect status. He begins to stick up for himself.
"I don't deserve to lose my center patch. I've been the best prospect this club has ever had." And so Domingo looked at me and he said, "If you don't want to lose that center patch, Billy, sew this on." And he threw a full patch Mongol rocker.
It's the final piece of the 3 patches that make up the Mongols' colors. Billy Queen is now a full member of the club. He's exhilarated and relieved.
I made it. I made full patch Mongol that night. And I was like, yeah, I made it. I made it. Guys were hitting me on the back and they were pouring beer over top of me. And I reached up to wipe the beer off of my face and stuff, and it didn't feel like beer. It felt like maple syrup. And I looked around and a guy was dumping a can of motor oil all over me. But you know what? I didn't care.
Operation Ivan has exceeded ATF expectations. As a full-patch member, Billy Queen is now beyond suspicion. And following him every step of the way, the ATF.
Look at this. This is awesome. There's our guy right there, right? In the back? You see him? Yeah.
Billy now takes part in the chapter's regular meetings, known as church.
We would have a weekly church. You check everybody off that's supposed to be there. And then they have what they call Chapter 13. Those are the guys that have been killed when they were in the club. We would call their names too, and everybody would answer for them.
Every chapter is run by its officers, a president, a sergeant-at-arms, and a secretary-treasurer. Just a month after becoming a full member, Queen is appointed the new secretary-treasurer of the San Fernando Valley chapter.
They turned the books over to me. Incredible. The inside books on what was going on, they handed me on a silver platter. I could see what was going on all over the country with the Mongols. And I knew what the codes were. Guns were known as beepers. We bought so many beepers, or we sold beepers to these people and stuff. I was privy to that information. Obviously, as soon as I got away from them, I hooked right up with ATF and turned it all over to them so they can make copies of the whole thing.
The ATF can begin building a criminal case strong enough to bring the club crashing down. Billy Queen has entered the Mongols' inner circle. It's a place no law officer has been before. Problem is, he's beginning to like it. Perhaps a little too much. ATF undercover agent Billy Queen is a full-patch Mongol. He served his apprenticeship and is now a trusted brother. Other brothers begin to involve him directly in their criminal activities.
One day I went with Rocky to his dad's house, and underneath the bed was a group of guns. And I told Rocky, hey, look, I'd like to buy like an AK-47, a couple other guns. Sure, sure.
Rocky is one of the two Mongols whom Queen first approached on day one of the operation. After months of close contact, Rocky trusts Billy completely. He asks if he knows anyone interested in buying drugs.
I said, yeah, I got a friend that, he's into methamphetamine a bunch. I'll call him up and see. So I faked a phone call to a confidential informant
45?
and said, do you want to buy some dope?
He said 50.
Well, what's the price? Haggle back and forth, stuff like that. So ATF bought 2-3 guns that day and 2-3 ounces of methamphetamine. That's the way that it would go.
Evidence the ATF will later use to convict Rocky. Other members of the San Fernando Valley chapter are drawn into the same trap. Home videos show Queen on vacation with them. Their guard is down. They begin to confess their criminal secrets to him. Chapter President Domingo becomes a good friend of Billy's. One night in the valley, Domingo gets into a serious assault in a bar. He thinks he's killed someone and is worried the police are onto him. Needing a place to lie low, he hides out in Billy's undercover apartment. Domingo doesn't realize that his every word is being videotaped.
I'm gonna go back into Tahunga, armed to the teeth, with body armor and everything, man. And I'm gonna kick in Ray's door, and I'm gonna shoot him dead. I'm gonna shoot whoever I think is responsible dead.
Queen has played it according to the textbook. Like a good undercover cop, he allows Domingo to incriminate himself without leading him on.
Damn, Domingo! Those bastards, they'll never take me alive, Billy. I'll just walk into their station and calmly shoot as many cops as I see.
Operation Ivan is now 1.5 years old. But prosecutors still need more. A serious enough crime to prove that the Mongols are deadly dangerous. November 12th, 1999. Mike Scott, an LA homicide detective, is awakened at home.
I get called at about 2:30 in the morning from my office, and I was told to respond to East Los Angeles area and City Commerce that there had been a homicide at a bar at Gina's Bar. When I first got the call, I was told that there were some Mongol motorcycle gang members at the bar, so I knew that it was going to be a tough road to hoe.
The trouble starts after a young woman, Deborah Luna, goes out on the town and meets up with some old biker friends.
She was there with some Mongols drinking, and they were partying and having a good time. And her boyfriend, Daniel Herrera, came to the bar shortly after midnight.
Come on, we're going home.
She didn't want to go home. She didn't want to leave. So there was a verbal altercation there between Daniel and Deborah about her leaving the bar. And he got ticked off about that.
You, Debbie.
And he said, you and the Mongols, and that's when everything started to fall to pieces.
Daniel Herrera is chased out of the bar by a gang of 8 Mongols. They jump him, punching and kicking him until he is barely conscious. And then one of the Mongols stabs him. The knife perforates a lung, and Daniel Herrera bleeds to death. Witness statements point to a Mongol, Ray Panhead Gutierrez, as the killer. His nickname comes from the old-style Panhead Harley-Davidson he rides. But although the police believe Panhead is guilty, they know from past experience it'll be hard to get witnesses to testify against him. 17 years earlier, another Mongol, Junior Eriksson, killed Hell's Angel Ray Piltz, and no one was willing to testify in court for fear of intimidation.
Almost all the time within a gang-killing case, within 48 hours, we'll know who the killer is. But getting the people together to testify as reliable witnesses, it's tough. So we had an ace in the hole here with Billy being undercover.
Billy Queen is perfectly placed to crack the case. He is given the task to get a confession directly from Panhead himself. It won't be easy. The Mongols have issued a Code 55 warning, meaning that no one is to wear their colors in public until the heat is off the club.
The Mongols are smart when it comes to that stuff. I mean, we had a national meeting, and they put out, nobody is to talk about this murder. Nobody. So I had to find a way to get next to Panhead to get him to talk to me about the murder.
Throughout Operation Ivan, Queen drove a red convertible specially equipped by the ATF, with microphones hidden in the air vents. Now this car would be used to solve a murder. Queen tells Panhead he has to pick up a package in Northern California and offers to pay him to come along for the ride. While on the road, Queen hopes Panhead will tell him what happened the night Daniel Herrera was killed.
The car was wired with a tape recorder, and I had a switch where I could turn it on and off. I just turned the tape recorder on. We talked and talked and talked. I got enough to take it to court and convict him of the murder.
The LA Sheriff's Office decides not to arrest Panhead immediately for fear of blowing Queen's cover. They take a chance allowing him to stay on the streets and hope he won't kill again. Panhead is so confident he's gotten away with murder, he starts to wear a skull and crossbones patch on his vest, an emblem only worn by members who have killed for the club. It's further circumstantial evidence of his guilt. The ATF can now add murder to the Mongols' rap sheet. It has enough evidence to bring Operation Ivan to a dramatic conclusion. But with the noose tightening on his club brothers, is Billy Queen ready, after 2 years undercover, to end his double life?
Wake up, LA. It's the big one, the last day of the year.
It's New Year's Eve, 1999. But undercover ATF agent Billy Queen is in no mood for celebrating. He's been riding with the Mongols for nearly 2 years now, and he's feeling exhausted, isolated, and miserable. His mother recently died, and he's been in North Carolina for her funeral. Unfortunately, Queen has no time to grieve. He returns to work.
ATF really wanted me back in. So I got back on the bike. I rode over to Evil's house. When Evil came to the door, I extended my hand for the Mongol handshake. And Evil grabbed me, put a big bear hug on me. And he said, "Billy, I love you. And I'm sorry about your mama." And when Domingo came in, it was the same thing. When Rocky came in, it was the same thing. "We love you, brother, and we're sorry about your mama." And they're hugging me, and they're telling me that they love me, and I felt that love, and it hurt me.
Queen feels more confused than he's ever felt before during his undercover career. These men are his friends, but in the cause of justice, he must betray them.
I truly felt so guilty that I was that close to going over the edge. And the way that I dealt with it was I started drinking. And I drank and I drank till I got to the point where I knew I was going to pass out.
Queen's ATF superiors realize he has been undercover too deep, too long. He's in danger of burnout. Concerned for his welfare, they decide it's time to bring Operation Ivan to a close. May 19th, 2000. The day of the takedown. For 2 years, only a handful of people have known about Operation Ivan. But now a huge arrest team assembles. Just after dawn, more than 300 heavily armed ATF officers raid locations across Southern California.
I see all these cops with these machine guns, you know, like full body armor. They're hopping out of these vans. There are 3 or 4 van loads of them. So I was looking for my gun, and I see it, and I grabbed the pistol, and they're coming up my steps. So they were right there, and I had the gun in my hand. Could have shot them, but I mean, we wouldn't be doing this interview, not out here, you know.
Red Dog is charged with having used an illegal gun during his showdown with Billy. Members of the San Fernando Valley chapter are also arrested and charged. And the police move in on Panhead for the murder of Daniel Herrera. Homicide detective Mike Scott, who held back to preserve Queen's cover, savors the moment.
They had no idea they had an undercover inside that gang. It's a nice feeling in seeing that guy coming in handcuffs. He didn't get away with it. He thought he did, but he didn't.
With the raid successfully completed, Billy is whisked away by the ATF to a safe location. But in the car, he receives a surprise call.
I got a call from a guy by the name of Top Hat.
Hey, Top.
He said, "Did you hear what's happening? Do you know what's going on? Are you okay, Billy?" And I said, "Yeah, Top Hat, I'm okay." He said, "We know who did it. It's this guy by the name of Preacher. We know that it's him. There's a hit team on their way down there to kill him right now." And I said, "Top Hat, you got to be sure before you do that." "We're sure. We're dead-ass sure. He's gonna be dead." I couldn't talk him out of it. And finally I said, "Top Hat, listen to me, and listen to me good.
Listen, Top, he didn't roll.
I'm a special agent with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. It was me."
Because it was me.
The phone went silent, and then I heard hang up. And that's the way they found out that Billy St. John was really William Queen, special agent with ATF.
For one Mongol at least, the news comes as no surprise.
We go to Pasadena jail, and they're saying, "Well, we've had a cop in your club for a couple years." And I said, "Who?" And they go, "Billy." I go, "I don't know any Billy." I go, "What chapter?" And then they told me, "The Valley chapter." And I go, "Man, I knew that was a cop."
54 Mongols are indicted as a result of Billy Queen's undercover operation. 53 of them are convicted of offenses ranging from drug trafficking to murder. Operation Ivan is a success. Red Dog served 3 years in prison. Since then, he has left the outlaw biker scene and now runs his own trucking business. But he's unrepentant about his former life.
I got a good deal. Matter of fact, it was worth it. The 3 years that I did, just knowing how scared Billy was.
Undercover ATF agent Billy Queen has had a more difficult time adjusting to life away from the Mongols.
I thought I was going to go back to being a normal agent again. I thought I was going to go back to being a dad to my kids again, but that didn't happen.
For his own protection, Queen is sent to live in Texas, but his children are transferred 1,000 miles away to Florida. His family ties ruined by the undercover operation.
It was worth it to ATF, to the people especially of California. Just wasn't worth it to me.
Billy Queen is now retired from the ATF and lives in an undisclosed location. The Mongols, however, have bounced back. Today, these masters of mayhem are once again a major criminal presence in Southern California. But having been infiltrated once, they are always on their guard, looking over their shoulder for another undercover agent, like Billy Queen, to strike again. To 300 members in California alone, it believes it controls the state. The Angels see the Mongols' California patch as a snub, serious enough to merit murder. Labor Day, 1977. Interstate 15, Southern California. Suddenly, a barrage of gunfire. When the smoke clears, two San Diego Mongols, Redbeard Morris and Jingles Smith, lie dead, shot down by a Hells Angels hit squad. It's a devastating attack, but there's more to come. 4 days later, Jingles and Redbeard are to be buried. Family, friends, and bikers are paying their last respects at a funeral home near San Diego.
During the services, a white 1962 Rambler pulls into the rear parking lot and parks next to the hearses and family cars lined up. Shortly thereafter, a dynamite bomb placed in the rear of the Rambler explodes. This was for everyone to see and know that the Hells Angels had gone to war with the Mongols Motorcycle Gang.
The operation before it even starts.
It was just a bad scene. I had to get her away from there as soon as I could.
Queen hustles Sue out of the bar, not knowing what Rocky and Rancid have made of him. But at least he has got his first close-up glimpse of the Mongols. The Mongols Motorcycle Club was formed in the back streets of East LA in the early 1970s. The club's name is a tribute to the Mongol army of the legendary Genghis Khan. But in the early 70s, the Mongols were attracting Saturday night hellraisers, not hardened outlaws.
The Mongols were really low on the radar as far as law enforcement as an organization. It was known for street crimes, drunk disorders, fights, things of that nature.
But the patches the Mongols wore on their jackets were causing offense. All outlaw bikers wear club colors, a vest with a three-piece patch, made up of an emblem in the center, sandwiched by the name of the club on top, and the territory it controls below. By the mid-70s, the Mongols still have less than 100 members, but they start wearing a California patch. The Hells Angels, the world's biggest outlaw motorcycle club, objects with closing.
We knew from the beginning that their violence and the tight-knit group that they were, that it'd be really very difficult to penetrate this group.
The feds have a way in. The girl at the bar is an ATF informant known as Sue. She is a tweaker, a drug addict, who knows the Mongols well because she buys dope from them. The ATF persuades her to introduce Queen to two of her contacts, Rocky and Rancid.
I wanted to shake hands. They wanted nothing to do with that. Just kind of tipped the bottle, and they looked at me and like, so what? And I didn't get much more than just a howdy from those guys.
Queen tries to strike up a conversation, but the informant Sue keeps on talking.
She was telling these two Mongols what friends we were, and I knew that could get me in trouble. We weren't friends. I mean, you need to be able to cover everything that you say. And here she is, just spouting off all kinds of stuff about who knows what.
Queen realizes Sue is high on methamphetamine. She's embellishing the cover story, threatening. San Fernando Valley, Los Angeles. March 1998. A man enters a roughneck bar called The Place. He meets a girl, has a drink, then spots a couple of mean-looking bikers. And so begins a major undercover investigation. Operation Ivan. The man at the bar is really a federal agent, Billy Queen, an officer with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF. The bikers are members of a notorious motorcycle club, the Mongols. By the late 1990s, the Mongols are a regular presence on the highways of Southern California. They have a reputation for drugs, guns, and violence, and their lawlessness is getting out of hand, spilling over into the general community. Now federal authorities are moving against them. They want to insert an undercover agent into the heart of the Mongols to gather evidence against the club that will lead to a prosecution. But getting inside the Mongols is not easy. Scott Jr. Erickson, a 20-year-old hothead from San Diego, joins the Mongols.
You know, my friends that I grew up with told me, what are you doing? What are you doing getting in this club? You guys ain't never going to make it. You know, look who you're fighting. You guys ain't never going to survive.
From the outset, the Mongols are on the defensive, worried about the possibility of further Hells Angels attacks.
We checked our cars for wires. I used to check my car every morning when I got to go to work. Start the car with the door open and 1 foot out. Well, we left the door open in case of an explosion. You know, hopefully if the cars would explode, it would throw you from the car. That's the way we lived. That's the way everybody lived.
It's an unequal contest. Low on manpower, the Mongols soldier on. But strong bonds of brotherhood are forged in the crucible of war.
Brotherhood is the most important thing. It's the feeling of being wanted and having people you can trust. I mean, isn't that what it's about? Isn't that why you might marry your spouse? It's to be with somebody and to trust somebody. And we're all looking for that. And with the Mongols, that's what I found.